When you put your money in an offshore bank account to save money on taxes, there are two main things you want: privacy and easy access. Tax havens are places where people can hide their money by making shell companies. However, corporations usually just incorporate in the tax haven to avoid paying taxes. Today, we'll give you the best countries to hide your money.
Hello and welcome to Luxury Premier, the ultimate destination for dreamers pursuing insight. And if you're here with us, it's not a coincidence that you are watching this video. Here in Luxury Premier, we only want what is best for you. May our videos inspire you and hope that all of your dreams may come true.
Number 5. Hong Kong. There are a lot of rich people in Hong Kong. Tax havens are countries that have low tax rates, especially foreign investors. This makes them good places for investors to stash their money. Investopedia.com says that Hong Kong is a top tax haven because it has rules that make it hard to tax the rich foreign residents and corporations on the island. In 2020, the World Bank and the accounting firm PwC said that Hong Kong was the second most tax-friendly country after Bahrain. The People's Republic of China, of which Hong Kong is a part, lets the territory have its own rules. This may give the island even more privacy than when it was under British control. Hong Kong, which is part of China but has its own government, is one of the most important financial hubs in the world. Because of this, some of the best banks in the world have branches there. On the island is one of the most important stock exchanges in the world. Since Hong Kong has its own currency, the Hong Kong dollar, foreigners don't have to worry doing business in the weaker Chinese yuan. Rich people from other countries should bank their money in Hong Kong for many reasons. For one thing, the island does not tax income that comes from outside its borders. Salaried people in the region pay income taxes that range from 2% to 17%, which is a lot less than what people in the West pay. Also, corporations in Hong Kong pay a tax of either 8.25% or 16.5%, depending on how much money they make. Capital gains, interest, and dividends are not taxed in the autonomous area, which is much better. Foreigners who keep their money in Hong Kong do not have to pay taxes on their net worth or public benefits. These taxes are similar to Social Security taxes in the United States. People with a lot of money can still benefit from shopping in Hong Kong even if they don't keep their money there. This is because there is no sales tax to pay. Number 4. Luxembourg. In July 1929, the government passed a law that made it possible for anyone to start a financial holding company that didn't have to pay income, dividend, or capital gains taxes as long as the owner of the company was kept secret. This was done to attract foreign investors. This was the first time Luxembourg became a global financial center. 3 months after the Wall Street crash in October 1929, the Great Depression started. This ended Luxembourg's hopes of becoming a major financial center, according to Forbes. In 1963, Luxembourg tried once more. It was the first to list Eurobonds, which are bonds issued by a company outside of its home market. This attracted large companies and wealthy families, made holding companies more popular, and started a boom in the financial services industry. Luxembourg, a founding member of the EU since 1951, had a law called SOPARFI, short for Société de Participations Financières, that made it easy for financial holding companies to operate. This law was in place until 2006. The European Commission then told Luxembourg to get rid of the original law from 1929. SOPARFI has had to pay local business and corporate taxes since 2011. After a 4-year grace period, however, they are still a common type of unregulated investment company that international investors like, and they still have some important tax advantages. Luxembourg is a good place for investors to set up holding companies if they want to lower their tax bills. It has tax treaties with several countries, including the US, China, Russia, and all EU members. Forbes found 2 common ways that billionaires have used Luxembourg holding companies to invest abroad. Some people like Arnold and the Spanish fashion magnate Amancio Ortega hold public stocks, private companies, or real estate through Luxembourg holding companies so that they can take advantage of Luxembourg's tax-free dividends. Others like Italian billionaire John Elkann and Russian metals magnate Mikhail Prokhorov keep smaller assets like hotels or private businesses through Luxembourg Corporation and sometimes sell them when they make a profit on their investment. One of the best things for billionaires with large holding companies in Luxembourg is that they can reinvest dividends and capital gains in other assets without having to pay taxes on the money. A tax lawyer in Luxembourg says that Luxembourg holding companies often reinvest dividends without paying tax on them. This lets investors get the full dividend tax exemption. Number 3. Switzerland. Since at least the beginning of the 18th century, French royalty and other European elites who wanted to hide their money liked to go to Geneva. In 1713, the Swiss government passed laws that made it illegal for bankers to talk about their customers. This was the start of a strong culture of silence and secrecy that would come to define Swiss banking in the future. In 1934, Switzerland passed a law called the Federal Act on Banks and Savings Banks. This law is also known as the Swiss Banking Act or the Banking Law of 1934. Article 47, the most well-known part of the law, said that it was against the law to give personal information about a customer to almost anyone without that person's permission and without first filing a criminal case. Article 47 is the basis for some of the strictest banking secrecy rules in the world. If you break it, you could go to prison for 5 years. The security and stability of Swiss banks, which are in a peaceful, politically neutral country that values privacy, made them irresistible to the super rich and other people who didn't want to talk about where their money came from. This was especially true as it became easier to move money across borders. Movies have shown long tunnels that lead to underground vaults and bank employees who have an unshakable reputation for keeping client information secret. In the world is not enough. In 1999, James Bond wonders what the world has come to if you can trust a Swiss banker. Switzerland has been thought of as a tax haven for a long time, and cantons try to offer the lowest rates of personal and business taxes. Due to taxes, about half of the money in Swiss bank accounts comes from outside of Switzerland, but there are signs that Switzerland might not be able to keep its status as a tax haven for much longer, according to expatica.com. In response to complaints from the European Union, the Swiss government made it harder for foreigners to open bank accounts, made it harder for foreigners to stay in Switzerland, and stopped giving multinational corporations special treatment. Number 2. Singapore. According to Asia.Nikkei.com, Singapore is evolving into a playground for the wealthy. Even during the pandemic, international capital and assets have been coming into the nation due to its low tax structure and reputation for a free market. Their wealthy owners have followed closely behind, arriving in eastern Monaco, some of them escaping the unrest in Hong Kong. The fact that Singapore is a relatively safe haven for wealthy individuals to park their money is the most obvious reason why the ultra-rich like being there. The fact that the nation obtains top grades for its sovereign credit rating is proof of this. In fact, Moody's, Fitch, and Standard & Poor's, the three most important organizations that assign these ratings, have given Singapore their highest possible rating of AAA, making it one of the few nations in the world to do so right now. The political, economic, and legal systems, strength, and transparency, which all contribute to a country's credit rating, may be of particular relevance to those considering starting a family office. A wealthy person might decide not to operate in a nation where the government or court is known to have high levels of corruption because they are worried about how they might be handled if they fail to curry favor with the powerful. Or a country's political could be so unstable that every election brings the chance of a total collapse of the government or even just a change in the tax laws for corporations. This would also make sense as a reason for someone not to look for a place to run their business from But as Mothership.sg pointed out, Singapore must have more to offer the rich than just stability and safety if it wants to attract them. After all, Sweden, Denmark, and Switzerland, as well as Canada, the United States, the United Kingdom, and Australia all have AAA ratings across the board. Because of this, safety and stability are important, but they aren't enough to bring the richest people in the world to Singapore. Number 1. USA. The Financial Secrecy Index, which was made by the Tax Justice Network in the UK, put the US in first place for the first time this year. Ian Gary, the head of the Justice Network's FACT Coalition, said the United States often says we're number 1, but this is one area where we don't want to be number 1. CBS News says that the discoveries are happening at a time when the US is cracking down on money from Russian oligarchs because of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Some oligarchs like Billionaires Alisher Usmanov and Igor Shuvalov have been hit with financial sanctions by the US. This is hard to do because much of their wealth is hidden in a complicated web of real estate holdings, personal investment accounts, and fake shell corporations, according to Quartz. The Department of Justice has put together a new crypto capture task team whose only goal is to find the hidden Russian cash. The Tax Justice Network looked at about 100 financial rules, including some that make it easier for criminals to hide and wash money. Analysts say that the United States jumped to the top of the list because the Treasury Department doesn't have enough money to enforce a new law against money laundering. Congress passed the Corporate Transparency Act in December 2020. It requires anyone who sets up a shell company in the United States to list the name of the owner. The Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, which is part of the Treasury Department, is in charge of making sure the rules are followed, but experts say that Financial Crimes Enforcement Network needs more money, employees, and technology, as well as more money in order to take on this new role and find out who is hiding money illegally. Under the proposed budget for the U.S. government for 2023, officials from the Biden administration are begging Congress to give Financial Crimes Enforcement Network $210 million, which is about 30% more than it has now. The report says that the rise in financial secrecy in the U.S. is mostly due to the passing of a new law that lets non-charitable private foundations be made without having to tell anyone about them. The Common Reporting Standard, which is run by the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development and now has 105 signatories, is another agreement that the U.S. has yet to ratify.
Today, we hope you learned something new that you will remember for the rest of your life. We'd like to thank everyone who has stayed with us this far. Despite the fact that we have never met, please know that we respect and admire you for choosing to be here today. Thank you for taking the time to speak with us, dreamers. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on any future videos.